Now do you have sound? Please tell me you have sound now. Okay, thank you. I am so crap at this, man. I'm so sorry, that was awful. Yeah. That's comes with being an amateur, I guess. No, you should have, Trick, because if you didn't, I would have just talked for an hour and thought it was done. So to start over again, because I certainly didn't talk about all the new ship additions for the past 15 minutes. Oh well. Now that everybody's here and actually listening, let's go over that again, shall we? So, new ship additions. There's not an awful lot of them. I think if I can count correctly, there is 10? 4, 5... Yeah, there's 10 new ship additions. So first off, American USS Helm. Tax-free bag... Well, it's a premium Bagley. Well, there's not much to say about it. It gets some more advanced anti-air, you know, dual bofers, some 20s compared to the Bagleys. 50 cals, you know, in the rear and near the bridge. Don't mind too much about any of the UI stuff. I will get into the UI stuff later. I'll first talk about the new ships. Germany has 2 new additions. One is S61, rank 2, battle rating 1.7. It's a pretty decent boat because it gets, you know, 1.7, really cheap, and it gets the Flak 37, which, if I go in a test sail real quick,
Action stations, man your
gets
post.
a really good frontal firing arc. So that's just right there. This should be a pretty mean little boat at 1.7.
Action station.
It's not just a load, that's it. There is only load to coastal and DD stuff, which I'm not too upset about. I'm fine not having another 400,000 RP battleship to research, although I might be in a minority there. But the next German edition is Z52. A paper ship. Well, quote-unquote paper ship. Its keel got laid down, but, you know. I am quite a fan of the American 40mm. Mainly, I find that the Soviet 37 doesn't quite have the punching power compared to the Bofors. German 37 is also pretty good, but I think it's a bit low in velocity compared to American Bofors. But it's not that bad, really. I mean, if they wanted USS Indianapolis, sure, but eh. Anyways, Z52 I think is quite interesting, not because of its main armament, but because of its anti-air armament. These being guns never seen before, I believe even in game. The 55mm guns in the middle of the ship act much like Bofors, just, you know, bigger caliber and a little bit lower rate of fire, a little bit longer reload. The 30mm are pretty good from what I could see in a test drive, and let me show you. They act quite a lot like 20mm. They're quite high velocity, but a bit more hitting power, obviously. So let's see them at work.
Target identified. Bomber.
Of course, I don't have a crew for this ship, so the anti-air accuracy will be quite bad. But that's quite a lot of firing time for the 30s. It's a decently quick reload, I think. Although that's actually one from the other side. So let me try and show you what these guns are like. I think the 55s have like a 3 or 4 round clip, maybe 5. And that's one of the new splash effects. So yeah, the 55s have 5 round clips. The 30s... Let's see, because they did start shooting again. Have quite a lot of firing time to my knowledge. But a decently long reload, I think. Yeah, 12-second reload. Again, this is without a crew. So this is stock performance, I believe. But that is a pretty long reload to have on your low caliber anti-air guns. But you have your 55s, so pretty decent reload, and you do still have the 128s. And the 128s with a stock crew, 4-second reload, more than fine. I think this is quite an interesting ship. For some people, maybe a bit too paper, but I think I'm fine with it. It is neat. 5.0 though is a bit rough. But yeah, same BR as Z46. The splash effects are really good, and I'll show them more in detail later. I mean, the HE is the same as the Z46. It's the same gun. Yeah, they are the exact same gun, so don't expect too much from it, in my opinion. Then going to Russia, we have one coastal edition to fill up the right-hand line a bit. TK126. You do, but again, the same amount as on Z46. But they're alright. I think it's a pretty cool destroyer. So, the interesting part about this is it's a Russian coastal boat with American armament. I don't know why the two dual 50 cals are split in this little overview, but oh well. Torpedoes are same old for the Russians, I believe. You know, it's a 1-3, it's a rank 1, nothing much to write home about, but a vaguely interesting addition for Russia. Then Britain has one addition being a coastal vessel as well, if I can actually click on the tech tree. The rank 2 MTB 379 at 2.0. It's, you know, dual Oerlikon on the front, twin 20mm, and some twin Vickers 77s. Alright, decently quick, even stock. Torpedoes are a bit lackluster. The speed is fine, range is lacking, and explosive mass is also a bit lacking. So, yeah, 2.0. It's a boat edition. Who can complain about a 2.0 edition, really? Then moving on to Japan, where we have two destroyer editions. First of these being Tade at 3.3, basically a premium mommy. But I did notice the interesting bit whilst I was talking to myself for the first 15 minutes of this stream, because I am stupid. It does carry mines, and that's not the button I wanted to click. Where is the modifications? The Tade carries mines, which the mommy doesn't. And I find that to be interesting. Is that really, you know, something that'll make me want to buy it? Not really. But it's interesting nonetheless. The second destroyer edition is Kagero, if that's vaguely how you pronounce it. Nothing much to say about this one either. It's a similar destroyer as the other Type A Japanese destroyers like Yugumo and Ayanami. An interesting tidbit is that the guns have a lower maximum elevation than Yugumo. See, they have 55 degrees maximum elevation. Yugumo has 75 degrees of maximum elevation. The Kagero is also a predecessor class to Yugumo, but it's interesting to see nonetheless. And this one also carries the 15-kilometer 1-ton long lances, whereas Yugumo carries the 20-kilometer ones. All in all, neat. 4.7, you know, it bolsters the 4.7 lineup quite nicely, giving you 3 tech-3 vessels. Nothing to really complain about. Then we go to Italy, which also gets 2 new destroyers, one being Saeta, which is not to be confused with the other Saeta. Thank you, Italy. And again, nothing much to say about this one. It is basically a premium version of the Dardo. Yeah, later. And yeah, it is rank 3, so it does mean you can, you know, use it more for other stuff. Then the other destroyer class we get is, I think, a class we haven't gotten yet for Italy. And I don't even want to try and pronounce that name. I guess Vincenzo Gioberti, something like that. New looking turrets, but not new guns. They're still reload pretty slowly. I think it's a stock reload of 10 seconds. Thereabouts. Torpedoes are standard for the Italians, speed pretty good. Nothing to really write home about. And then the last edition is the French Verdun. Also a class of destroyer we haven't had in game yet. But yeah, it's a rank 1 destroyer at 4.0 with the short-barreled 138s. Not the worst guns on a French destroyer, but they could do better. Armor-wise, destroyer, internals, or destroyer. Let me actually look at the ammo loadout for the other ones as well, because this one seems pretty vulnerable in some spots. Especially at the rear rack there. Let's look at the others. Italy. I mean, yeah, poking just below the waterline, maybe just above it. Yeah, I'll get back on the submarine stuff later, but there's some more interesting stuff happening there for sure. But I'll get back to that topic later on. Let's look at the internals of Kagero. Same as other Japanese destroyers, really. Ammo below the waterline, but shell rooms below the turrets. Torpedoes strewn about. I mean, there just isn't an awful lot to really say about the additions. They're nice. I actually quite like not having to deal with more 400 or 380,000 RP battleships to grind. Or, God forgive, like a 350,000 RP coastal. So getting a lot of low-tier stuff just to pad some lineups, to pad some BRs, I'm not complaining. Yeah, that's anti-air ammo. Also knowing that the fuel tanks don't cover the engines. Also, that is an interesting engine arrangement. I need to look more into this ship. But yeah, cool stuff. But I think now we'll go on to the main attraction. And that is the water changes. Also, actually, whilst I'm here, torpedo bulges are now visible on the X-ray. Neat. So, the water visual effect changes. The first thing I'm going to show you is, well, the difference with water. The main difference here is reflection. What I want you to do is just look at the reflection in this section of the screen. And yeah, tor bulges are now part of the X-ray. They were always a thing. As long as you saw this in the stat card, they were always a thing. They're now just visible in the X-ray to show you what they actually cover. Neat. I think they actually used to be visible in either the armor viewer or the X-ray years ago. And yes, they are here. They're part of the damage control systems in the X-ray. Which is a bit annoying if you want to see like the other things inside of a ship. But oh well. But now, water visuals. Look at the water visuals in this section underneath like the shore and the mountains. And then I will show you what it looks like on the live server. Notice the difference in reflections from the water. That is really the main reason why the water looks darker on the dev server than it does on the live server. I don't actually know. Because I don't actually use the old repair system. But I can check. I actually can't check that on the dev server because I can't get shot at. Oh well. The bulges, the thing is, the bulges have always been a thing. The torpedo bulges were just not really easily visible. They can get shot off by high explosive, by armor piercing. It does not change the survivability of the ships you are already used to. That's something I want to really emphasize. This update does not change anything about the gameplay. There's no damage model changes. There is no weird fuckery like that. I want you to keep that in mind when I talk about the UI changes. Anyways, let's look at the water in a test sail in a bit more detail.
Secure the ship
As you can
for sea.
see, the water is a lot darker because you do not have the reflection of the clear blue sky. Another thing you noticed whilst I am in the test drive is this new overlay.
Ahead! 2,000 meters.
There is something I want to
Stations. Enemy spotted.
talk about with this overlay in more detail. This grey bar, right, I want to again state, nothing about the gameplay has changed. Nothing. So when you see this grey bar and that being the cutoff for minimum crew, let me actually shoot in the aircraft so it doesn't make too much noise. Or try to shoot it down at least.
Airborne target destroyed.
But yeah, so this bar is just the UI change. The way that naval
Target
crew has
identified.
always worked
Boat.
is that you can get reduced to a certain number, which should be around 30-ish% of your total crew, and then your crew bails out. That is how it's always worked. Now, the crew percentage that we're used to from 100 to 0 was misleading. Because at 100 to 0 actually means this is 100%, this is 0%. Where the grey bar starts, the dark grey bar, that was 0%. So this visual is actually a better representation of what actually happens. It isn't perfect, because now you don't know where that 10% is, where a ship starts to automatically flood. So they really should put an indent somewhere, but oh well. Anyways, splash effects. Fucking amazing.
Shot.
I am genuinely happy about the splash effects. They are amazing compared to what they are on the live server. And the water in general is just a lot better. Especially when moving with waves. It's still not perfect. You can still see a bit of artifacting here and there, especially on the bow wave. But it's very nice. Then let's go on to the coast
Starboard
vessel.
your helm.
I think that I've tried some bombs. I tested some stuff out on Monday evening with a friend of mine. And bombs didn't seem to properly work, but let me test it out again. With, well, I do have a PA, do I not? Or let me just take the 12,000 pounds, because I know I have that. I don't think I actually have the jungle. Did I not select the 12k? What does it do again? Yeah, there it goes. So let's fly over the water and see what happens. But I did some testing with a friend and they weren't working right. They were just giving the normal like ground explosion effect when I was trying out the new D3A with its new model. So let's see if this big bomb does better. And let me drop it next to a ship as well for some size references. What I have noticed is that ships are a little bit harder to spot on the water surface now, seeing as the sky isn't as clearly reflected as it used to be. But yeah, that's... You can still see like the PNG artifacting of it, with its like twisting and turning to try and like face you. But it looks so much better, especially in another ship. Also, let me try and do that again and actually just follow the bomb in. That might be a better idea. Whilst I reload. And whilst we're here waiting, there is something I want to mention in terms of submarines as well. I don't know how many of you remember the end of year community disclosure post of 2024. At the end of 2024 they said, we are working on submarines and we're working on improved water graphics. It is a little bit of a one of my theories, so to say, that I think the improved water graphics are a prerequisite to submarines. And with how Leviathans was a big naval update last June, I am expecting big things for this June as well. But we'll have to wait and see. Let's try and drop this bomb again. We're not really going for a kill here, we just want to go for visuals. The submarine cope has been high for me for the past year and a half. I really want to get submarines just to get something new to play. Let's follow this bomb in and see what we can see. I really, really like the splash effects. They look fantastic. And I think the best visual for the new splash effects is actually for artillery. So let's say we have that boat right there.
Target identified.
Let's... Oh, that's the screen I want. Let's drop some artillery on that boat.
Torpedo bomber! Ahead! 3,000 meters!
Action stationed.
There
Enemy
comes the
spotted.
artillery strike. And it looks incredibly scary to be inside of.
Enemy hit.
Genuinely, the new
Engine,
shell splash
flank
effects
speed.
are fantastic. Couldn't be happier about it.
Port your helm.
Aye! Steer port!
So, I'll get back into Yamato and actually complain about something about the UI changes as well. And I'll put it in stormy weather, because stormy weather seems to affect big ships quite decently as well. Let's put it into storm, and I'm going to complain about all the UI changes.
Action stations. Man your post.
There we go. So, this new crew overlay thing,
Target identified.
as some of you may have noticed, replaces another UI element. It replaces the hull integrity, like, visual,
Torpedo bomber.
which is rather annoying.
Action
Let's actually
stationed.
get some
Enemy
moving on.
spotted. Target identified.
But
Light
I
cruiser.
assume they found it acceptable to remove the visual for the hull integrity,
Airborne target.
because you
destroyed.
can see it in other
Engine,
places.
Flank speed.
Let's just silence my crew a little bit, they're loud. So let me fire upon this Helena. Yes, I really, really like the new water effects, they're fantastic. I'll actually finally make for some better screenshots.
Hard starboard! Aye!
Enemy hit.
Helm. Mid
So yeah, now you'll have to actually go off the color of the whole section and actually just completely miss it, Helena. Purely by this. So I can see that this section is slightly damaged and that's it. Let's try that again. To get some better results. I will also go over that because I keep forgetting that that's actually a change. But I like it. I like the torpedo viewing on the minimap. Yeah. So this red discoloration is all you'll have to go off of to see what the whole section is. I think we can see our own by slight discolorations as well. I need to test that properly, and I can't really do that at the moment. Whoops. But yeah. The new waves. Fantastic. Because it'll actually like 4 proper waves along the whole. Like a thing I've noticed as well is that your ship will actually properly cut through water now. Through waves, instead of like flipping through them. It seems to actually break up the wave. It's just such a fantastic visual. I'm trying to look at the whole, at the bow waves, and I'm thinking, are they constant in position? Because I'm curious if you could now have that little weak spot appear in the hood. If it went full speed. Probably not. Doesn't look too constant either in the position. But yeah, new water is fantastic. Now, to look at the torpedo minimap stuff, let's look at the new Kagero in this meanwhile. I see it get thrown around in the storm.
Secure the ship for sea. Engine.
I didn't bring any torpedoes because I am stupid. So let's try that again. Oh no, they will they will throw around smaller boats.
Flank speed.
Like, if you are not sailing, how to say this, into waves, you will get thrown around.
2,000 meters.
Action station.
No, so what I have seen, and what I've noticed is that the bots don't shoot you until you shoot them. Is what I observed in the test, battle. At least that's what it looked like in the,
Destroy.
yeah, on this little custom battle test on the dev server. I had a test target Alaska, and it didn't want to shoot my Yamato until I shot at it, and then it started shooting me. It's only one example, it's only one target. I don't know if that's actually a thing, but it's something I've observed.
Helm, midship.
Yeah, let's see if you can see this thing get thrown around in the waves a bit. Yeah, it does. It feels like it's actually getting properly pushed by these waves in a correct kind of manner. I'm just happy with these water changes. They look fantastic.
Aye, steer
They're still not the greatest up close, especially if you actually get in the foam. But great stuff. And I can't wait for submarines to actually be a thing in this kind of weather, man. It looks so amazing.
Port your helm.
Yeah,
Aye, steer port.
yeah. There's still it's still not perfect, but I do like the look of it. Now let's test these torpedoes, right? These torpedo markers.
Torpedo
So
tubes.
I'm gonna zoom in on the minimap a little bit.
Torpedo away.
1, 2, 3.
Target identified. Light
1,
cruiser.
2, 3. 1, 2. And as you can see, there they go on the minimap.
Target identified. Light cruiser.
So a complaint I've seen some people make is that the torpedo trails are very long. They go from origin and don't disappear, which, yeah, is a valid complaint. But when your minimap is completely zoomed out, it kind of needs that long torpedo trail to be visible, or at least a fairly long one. But it's a very, very nice UI change, this. Because now you have an idea of, okay, where are my torpedoes, how much longer is it going to take for them to reach the target. They do? That I haven't tested. You cannot see enemy torpedoes. The only torpedoes you can see on this window are your torpedoes, nothing else. And another little bit of copium for me is that it's another UI element more designed for submarines, so that the submarine can keep better track of where its torpedoes are. But it's handy for the Japanese torpedo boats as well, you know, just to know where the torpedoes are, how much longer it's going to take.
Flank speed.
Hard starboard. Aye.
I think in general it's good, because especially in game modes like Arcade, where you have minimap markers, you'll know if an enemy ship is sailing into them. You'll have an idea of, okay, are those torpedoes going to hit, are they not? And even in realistic battles, what you can do is just T17, mark them on the minimap that way, and then you have an idea, are they in the torpedo spread, are they not? It's a little bit annoying that I can't zoom in like here, but if I go on this map, you can really zoom in and look at them. It's a bit of a shame that you don't have like a proper ship length to look at on the minimap, but oh well. Can't have everything.
Hold your helm.
Aye, steer starboard.
I'm happy torpedo trails are fixed as well, actually. Let me try and show those, but first, let's look at this. Also, actually no. Keep an eye out on the UI, because torpedo hits, now, have their own little marker,
Detected.
which is also neat. But yeah, torpedo trails are also back.
Torpedo away.
They should have, yeah, there goes the proper bubble trails again.
Battleship. Ahead. 9,000 meters.
Starboard. All.
So this is, as an update, this is definitely more a quality of life, like a small update for naval, but I wouldn't call it a bad one in a long shot. There are other things they could have addressed. There are still some bugs, some problems, some issues. But all in all, I'm pretty happy with this update. Let me just check if I'm not missing anything or forgetting anything. Yes, there is another thing we need to look at in the hangar. So they changed the vehicle stat cards. I will also do that just for the fun. But the vehicle stat cards. And here we are going to compare two images. Just give me a moment whilst I try and adjust some overlays so that we can look at things side by side. That's a bit too big now. Okay, that should be perfect. So I will briefly summarize everything at the end. I usually do that. I will do that this time as well. The things the HP change is just a UI change. It is no mechanical change to the actual gameplay. And yeah, technically long lancer shouldn't have a bubble trail, but shush. It's fine for gameplay purposes. But now, what do we want to compare? First and foremost, this is the current live server stat card of Yamato. This is the new one. So, as you can see, lots of different things, right? I mean, yeah, for the whole HP trick, but well, we'll work around it. I can work around it, that's for sure. It is very annoying that you can't see where that auto-flooding percentage is. But, yeah. So, the complaints and the good bits about this new stat card for naval. The good bits. It gives you a shit ton more information. But it removes some information. First and foremost, you will see that some text is highlighted blue. This is because you can hover over the blue segments to get more information. This also goes for the guns. This goes for the hydroplane. This goes for the shells. I like that. I like the fact that I can get all the information of the ship, all of it I want, from just looking at the stat card. All of it. Rangefinders, I can get the exact stats of the rangefinders, and even what guns. All of the information is right there. Okay, the radar stuff is maybe a bit different, but still. This protection is one of my complaints. Because the thing you have on the live server that you might be able to see there is hull and superstructure plating. These are important stats to know, the actual thickness of. Because that matters especially for coastal vessels, for shell fusing, and just to know what you're actually resistant to. Maybe they want to obscure some information, but eh. I mean, you say that, but the rollover text change is actually a big frustration for Trickstick, and I actually don't really like it either. A complaint I have, particularly for Yamato, as we use it as an example, the 25mm guns, these ones. It says 2 pieces and 150 pieces. It doesn't tell you what mount they're in, what type of mount they're in, of course. Not even when you're hovering over them. Although, do you always get a reload rate of these guns? Probably. Like, I like the fact that I can just hover over the gun and see all the information. But this rollover text at different intervals is so annoying. Like, what they should do for gun names is just caliber and length. So what they really should do is just 460mm/45 and cut the rest of it off. Because if you want more information, just look at the card. Is it still on coastal stat cards? Let me check. Let me just pop that off real quick and look at coastal. Is it? Because I don't think it is. Yeah, now the hull and superstructure armor values are no longer visible, and that is a great shame that that disappears. So back to Yamato. And let me get that overlay back on again. And yeah, you could just... The thing is, the reason they don't align the ammo further right is because they want to align it with the rest of the text. Which, okay, understandable. But yeah, I also like the button, hey, press the armor viewer, you'll go direct to the armor viewer of the ship. I like the like design practice that went into this. I like it. It's a very, very neat stat card, but it's imperfect. This is also something that slightly drives me mad. So it says the guns in like X pieces this gun, X pieces this gun, X pieces this gun, and then it says hydroplane 2 pieces. It's not perfect. It's certainly not perfect, but it is decent, in my opinion. That is definitely not where I wanted overlay. There we go. Other than that, what other information are we lacking? I don't think an awful lot. They compressed a lot of information down to give more space for all the gun information. But yeah. Also, in general, the stat card is bigger, because the picture on the right for the live server, I've zoomed it out a little. But that's the stat card stuff. What else do I want to talk about? That's probably good. But I think it's just listing what the ships actually have, which I find neat. It also helps with looking up what the actual radars are. But actually, I was getting distracted here about Yamato, about these 2 and 150. I find it annoying that it doesn't tell me, okay, why is this mentioned separately and why is this mentioned separately? I know because Yamato has triple mounts, but the 2 separately mentioned 25s are these 2 single ones in the back. Why are they mentioned separately if you don't mention the mount type anyways? So it's, you know, it's imperfect. Also, so you have the stat card when you hover over it, and it gives you all these little pop-up windows to give you more information, right? But then you have the stat card here, and you have none of those windows. Why? I guess because you can just access all the stuff yourself, but it's still a little annoying. Oh well. But yeah, I'm not, you know, too upset by these changes. They're fine, they're workable. Not perfect, but usually isn't. I get the feeling I keep forgetting something. Oh, new maps. Kind of. There is a new version of Golden Bay. Not here. It is in the actual... Is it in custom battles? I think it's in custom battles. Let's see. Golden... Yeah, so it's this version. So yeah, Golden Bay has a blue water version for some reason. Apparently this one existed when it was first introduced, but just never was playable. Now it is on the dev server. The range between the spawn points isn't that great. It's like 7 kilometers, 8 kilometers at best. We don't know what the BR range is. I don't expect battleships. I expect this to be just a BR grade higher, maybe. I hope it isn't really, to be honest. But yeah, it's just open sea. Yeah, this is literally just African Gulf 2, but a little bit worse. It's close range. It says that these spawn points are coastal spawn points, but they aren't. Those are blue water spawn points. It's weird. It's a weird map. I hope so, yeah. That they're just destroyers and CLs. But yeah, other than that, we are pretty much out. I showed you the notification for torpedo hits, the torpedo trails, the crew hit icon. Let me just see if we can get that little icon to pop up again.
Secure the ship for sea. Target identified.
Because apparently in the hit cam, if it actually is an option... is it an option to show hit icons? Why is that one disabled? There we go.
Fire.
Bearing 280. 5,000 meters. WT bridge. Spotted on radar. Torpedo.
It is what it is.
Ahead. 2,000
Let's
meters.
see if we can just do some of the
Action
HE.
stations. Enemy spotted.
Probably not because it's a Fletcher. But yeah, there you go. Little hit like I'm telling you crew losses. Let's actually see. I would love if it would tell you like what this actual count is. Although if you wanted to be really, really nerdy, you can just look up in the crew skill tabs, because actually that's something I want to mention. Crew skill tab. So you know that notice that grey bar, right? When you look at a ship, you see max crew 3,332. When you look at the crew tab and you go to crew interchangeability, maximum loss 2,333. This has always worked like this. So that's why when you look in a task sail at that grey bar, it has always worked like that.
Prepare the ship for battle.
Yes. Especially from Yamato, the shell splashes will obscure your target. The secondaries aren't really like. Let's go for a cruiser.
2,000 meters.
Action stations. Enemy
I
spotted.
think the secondary shell splashes aren't that
Light cruiser.
big. They're not that obnoxious, but the main battery will definitely obscure targets. Like they'll, even those will actually still obscure it. Of course, that was very short. Let's see if I can do just short. Oh, let me actually see that, because I know they changed something about radar stuff, but I don't know the entire controls of it. Okay, let's get the main guns involved. In the meantime, let's see about radar. Because I know there's like a mini screen you can now deploy for radar. But I don't know how that works. Because I didn't really look into it, because I know it's mainly like an air thing. So I didn't really look into it an awful lot. Don't... Yeah. Yeah, I saw the square display as well, but it's for aircraft. I don't know how to do that for ships. I'll look into it. But let's do some Yamato main gun shell volleys. And that should just obscure the cruiser. Cruiser is behind the smoke screen. So, I do really like it. I think it's amazing that you can actually obscure ships with your splashes now. But it's just good, really good. And that's apparently a shell bounce that finally landed back down. It is a little bit funky how it does the splashes, because it's any impact of the water, even if it's like a ricochet, it'll do the full splash. Which, yeah, not quite right, but it's what it does. Let's try a more modern ship. Let's try Lutyens, because I know that thing should have a pretty advanced radar.
Action stations. Man your posts.
But I don't know how to affect it. If I lock onto something, will it then change? Of course, radar locks have been a bit funky for naval. Oop. Camera in a wave. Yeah, I'll need to look into. Ooh.
Bomber.
I need to look into those radar changes.
40. 2,000 meters. Target being tracked. Target locking lost.
What else was I going to show? What was I talking about? Okay, I think I just saw a description of how the radar works. Let me try that again.
All hands to battle station.
Yeah, I don't think it works with ship radars. Also, that's Set 52, that's not Legends. Trying to think, do I have anything with a more advanced radar? I bet Tiger.
Prepare the ship for battle.
Yeah, I don't know how to activate it for ships. I'll try and look into it a bit more. Let's see. Because there is actually one effect that I have not been able to recreate yet. And that's the very big detonation splash you saw on the German dreadnought in the teaser. I haven't been able to recreate it yet, and that looks amazing. And I really want to try and get that.
Action station. Man your posts.
So let's see if we can recreate it on the dreadnought.
Target identified. Battleship.
Bearing 260.
With a detonation.
7,000 meters.
I have to clear the barrels, but oh well.
Torpedo bomber. Ahead!
Action station. Enemy spotted. Engines all stop.
Hard port, aye.
Let's see if we can get it to work.
Helmet ships, aye.
I don't think it does. The thing is, I think it only works with like a fire-based detonation, so a like ammo cook-off. That's what it looked like to me in the teaser. Because I've tested it with a few direct hits on Monday evening and it didn't really do anything. So let's try for a Barbat fire. See what happens. And if I detonate him in one shot, well, I detonate him in one shot.
Collision alert! Powder room hit!
See, that's just a normal splash effect, I think. He's on fire? Yes. Let's just wait and see if it does anything. I think it put the fire out already. Let's go for a direct magazine detonation, I guess. And then I know what I'm going to test. I'm going to get into a American battleship and see the 5-inchers fire. See how much splash that generates. Yes, this whole segment is now yellow, but it's actually blacked out. There it goes. So you can also see like these bars underneath the hull. It's not a good visual though. Keep straying off target. And let's try for a rear detonation. I'll be the last salvo and I'll jump into something American. I think we're almost in for a recap then. Yeah, like see, the detonation itself doesn't generate any new splash effects like I saw in the teaser. So I could do the Atlanta, but that doesn't do automatic, so you don't get like a random spread. And I have Iowa, I might as well use it. So let's test so Iowa. And just unleash the 5-inch guns
Destroyer.
on that.
5,000 meters. Enemy destroyed. Target destroyed. Spotted on radar. Fighting. Ahead. 2,000 meters.
Action station. Enemy spotted.
We're all overshooting, as the AI usually does. But as you can see, that'll cause quite a blanket over destroyers and the like. Let's
Target
do the
identified.
hipper.
Heavy cruiser.
Bearing 280. 9,000 meters. Near him.
If they want to open up. Yeah, they sometimes misbehave. Is it just out of range? It shouldn't be.
Shells on target.
It's too range for them not to want to fire at a hipper.
Light cruiser.
Bearing 280. 7,000
Oh well.
meters.
So let's try Atlanta anyways. There it is. Alright.
Prepare the ship for battle. Target identified. Light cruiser.
Bearing 80. 7,000 meters.
Fighter! Ahead! 2,000 meters!
Action station.
I'm deliberately missing just to see the shell splashes. Now let's go for some hits. But yet, these shell splashes are going to obscure visibility a bit. So that's going to be interesting. What day? Who knows? It's going to be somewhere this month. But I don't know when. Could be next week, could be in 2 weeks. Don't know. But yeah, I think it is time for me to recap all the new ship additions. Unless there's any last questions. So I'll just start the recap. So, ship additions. USS Helm, rank 2, 4.0 American Premium Destroyer. It's just a bag with different NDR. Nothing else to really write home about. It is quite a historically famous ship, but that's besides its gameplay effectiveness. Germany gets a new destroyer Z-52, paper ship, rank 3, 5.0. Quite interesting. Interesting AA armament. Coastal Fleet S-61. Has one Flak 37 in the rear, rank 2, 1.7. Should be a very good boat. Especially with its frontal firing arcs. Then we have Russia with a new almost reserve boat, 1.3, rank 1. It's a Russian boat with American armament. Neat. Dirt cheap. You know, fun for a little bit. Britain gets a new torpedo boat at rank 2, battle rating 2.0. 20 mils in the front. Pretty mediocre torpedoes. It's 2.0. It's not all that, offensive. 8,000 RP should be done real quickly. Looks pretty neat. Japan gets 2 new destroyers. Tade, which is basically a premium Mommy, but it gets mines, whereas Mommy doesn't. Neat, but yeah, what do you expect from it? It's rank 1, battle rating 3.3, basically a reserve blue water premium. I will look at them after this as well. Then we have Kagero for the Japanese destroyers as well. It is the predecessor class to the Yugamos. It has slightly worse NTR angles for the main guns. It has slightly more NTR guns. It carries the 15-kilometer long lances, not the 20-kilometer ones, so that's neat. Other than that, it is a bog standard Japanese destroyer. But it is nice to have either way. Italy gets a premium Dardo. That's basically it, with Sata, not to be confused with the missile boat Sata. But oh well. Then it gets a new tactical destroyer at rank 1, battle rating 3.7, Vincenzo Gioberti. Looks like a bog standard Italian destroyer to me as well. Does have a unique gun mount, but I believe the guns are already familiar to us. I'm not entirely certain, but I think they are. Neat. Who's going to complain about a new destroyer? Especially one so cheap. And then France has one new ship, also at rank 1, battle rating 4.0. Verdun, a ship class we don't have yet, has the short 138s. It's another French destroyer. all in all, the ship additions aren't really the big draw. They're all, padding out some low tier, low BR lineups, which is nice. I'm not going to complain about more actual 3-ship lineups with Tech 3 vehicles. Should always be a thing. So that is good to have. Then we have water visual changes. We have stat card changes. Other than that, some other UI changes, mainly the crew visual in the test drive. That is not the button I wanted to click. Which annoyingly replaces the hull integrity UI element, but it is actually a more accurate representation of what happens to your crew in game, so that's neat. But it is lacking a minimum crew like indent for when you can stop repairing, or when you can no longer repair rather. And that's it. That is this update for naval. Some more submarine stuff has been data mined. Possibly really close to submarines at this point, I believe, but we'll have to wait and see. Now, those French and Chinese aircraft carriers, I hope I can look at them, because I don't actually have much aviation for them. And I don't think any of these are their jet fighters, are they? And I can quickly test out. Does France have any naval fighters that I can just quickly jump into? I don't. Maybe a Hawk. I doubt it. What about a different map? Does that require anything? What about Corsair? Trying to see if I can get a carrier spawn. What else do I have? I bet Sea Fury. I'm not entirely sure if I can actually try and look at those French and Chinese carriers just because I don't have the naval jets to really look at them with. And yeah. So that's going to... I sadly can't actually look at those. The submarines will be, but that doesn't mean they're not going to be interesting. But yeah, that is it for this update. There's no big damage model changes that I could spot. There is... yeah. I'm gonna try some more carrier maps, but I really doubt I'm going to actually be able to try them. Are any of these naval jets? No. Yeah, no, I don't think I'll be able to actually show off the carriers. Just because I don't have naval jets. It's not much to show, really. To my knowledge, there are just 2 more modern carrier models for the French and Chinese naval jets. They're not playable. Probably never going to be. Who knows? But I think I'm going to leave it at that. I do have work tomorrow and I do need to get to bed quite soon. So, yeah, unless there's any last questions, any last things you really want me to check out, it's going to have to be a good night. It doesn't. I wouldn't assume that a modern carrier just to have in their carrier jet test flights really shows anything. And yeah, I will see you all later. There is actual videos planned, but I'm just procrastinating heavily on the editing process, which I really shouldn't be. It's not that difficult to do, but I just procrastinate on it. But yeah, have a good night, and I will see you in the next one.